throw, right? Single throw.
Yeah. So today we will talk about nozzle, combustion chamber, and draft. And this is again from the NORA book. It's chapter 4, if I'm not mistaken. Nozzle, combustion chamber, and vents. Let's talk about that. So combustion again, what do we need for combustion? Fuel, air, plus spark.
We can put heat as well. I'll take heat.
Wait, repeat it again?
Fuel, air, and spark.
What do you need for combustion? Fuel, air, and spark or heat. And to have complete combustion, we need the right amount of fuel, the right amount of air, and the right amount of heat and ignite. We need the correct mix of fuel and air. Why? Because we want to have complete combustion. If you have incomplete combustion, you'll have smoke and the fire might go out. What is atomizing? It's breaking down the liquid into small little droplets. It's kind of like spraying fuel. What is clean combustion? Clean combustion takes place when you have the right mixture of oil and air. Thank you. What is the ignition point of fuel? 637. I've seen 500 in some in the NORA book. So between 500 and 650 probably is going to be valid. I've seen if you go to the oil burner exam and you see 630, put that in. If you see 500, probably it's also correct. Different resources and different fuel. But between 500 and 650, the fuel will start to ignite. Confined space, that's a very important question because I've seen it a few times. What do we define as confined space? I'm going to ask you a few of those in the quiz because I've seen it come in the exam a few times.
Tight
So,
areas. A sewer.
tight area, good definition. It's tight area. What defines a tight area for an oil for a burner? If you have anything more than 50 cubic feet per 1,000 BTU hour of combustion, that is not confined space. Less is confined space. So if I have only 49 cubic feet for 1,000 BTU, that's a confined space. Any more is not confined space.
And if more, it doesn't go through the code, right?
Huh?
Or they expect they wouldn't go through. It's not.
Yeah, it's not the code. You cannot have less than. It's considered confined space. If you place your boiler in confined space, you need to have different kind of outfits and breathing apparatus. It's confined space should not be there.
Another
So if it's
person
less
that
than
needs to
50,
watch everything
yeah.
too, yeah.
If it's less than 50 cubic feet, is okay.
Yeah.
And it's more.
No. If it's more, it's okay. If less, it's not. And that's per 1,000 BTU hours. So let's say if you have a boiler with capacity 60,000 BTU hour. What space will make that not confined space? What space we need for that room to be considered not confined space? So for each 1,000 you want 50. So I'm going to multiply
It's in like 30,000 something.
60 times 50 cubic feet, 3,000 cubic feet. If I have 2,500, that is confined or non-confined space? That's confined space. Confined means small, tight place.
If you get 16,
Because this is 60,000. For each 1,000 you want 50. So 60,000, 60 times 50. For each 1,000 that will give you 3,000 cubic feet. Make sense? We'll do a few examples about that.
What did BTU stand for?
BTU is the output of the boiler. So when you buy a boiler, they tell you the capacity of this boiler is 50 BTU per hour. That's how much heat it produces. Questions? So we'll talk.
British thermal units.
Yeah, that's what BTU stands
So we want to talk about the nozzle.
for. 1 BTU equals, 10
So that question asked me.
Can you just tell me the?
You got him.
I like that. So a nozzle. What information you'll see in the nozzle? Spray angle. Yeah, and flow. Yeah. Down.
I'm ready to
So you get the gallon per hour. And spray angle in degrees. The spray angle is measured from one edge of the wick to the other. So this is around like 90, probably it's 85-degree angle. And the flow rate is how much we have of oil spraying from the nozzle. So this is the atomization, and you can see the density and the concentration of the droplet get less and less as we go further. And usually we want the nozzle, the electrodes to be close to the nozzle, depending on where you have the proper concentration of droplets. If you have less droplets, it's not going to ignite. If you have too much droplets or liquid phase, it's not going to ignite. So if you have delayed ignition or no ignition, this is something you want to check. So you have liquid here in the beginning. This is the orifice where the spray will come. And usually you have a filter here or a strainer to prevent any objects to go inside. And what is the pressure that this nozzle is rated at? Depends on the boiler, either 100, between 100 psi to 150 psi. If this, 150? Between 100 psi to 150 psi. And that is related to the burner itself. You should read on it what is the concentration. And you should always replace the nozzle with a similar manufacturer nozzle. Don't go with other manufacturer, even if it's the same spray angle and the same GPH, because it's designed differently, and the spray angle and the GPH are related to that nozzle and that pressure for that boiler exactly.
So let's say that the tank is outside.
Yeah.
Remember how you said you had to change the pressure?
Yeah.
So like, what would the pressure say if it was too cold? Would it say that would be down?
Good question. That will be an installation issue. If they install the tank outside, they will get a pressure pump to pump the oil from the outside to the inside. However, the pump coming into from the pump should be the same, should be consistent.
And if-
It should not be related to the oil from the outside.
And what do you set it to, 150?
Whatever it says on the board. There's a sticker on the burner, it should tell you it's 150, 120, 100, and that was the rating for it. Any questions? So, three major factors on the nozzle pattern: the flow rate, that's gallon per hour. Viscosity does affect the flow, and the pressure. So as Felipe said, if the oil is very cold, we should heat it and we should deliver the oil to the pump, and we make sure the pump is pumping to the nozzle line within specification, which is either 100 psi or 150 psi or something in between. So pressure, viscosity, and flow rate. Different types of angles. Again, the angle is the measurement from the one edge to another. I've seen 90, that's the maximum I've seen so far. There's 100 sometimes for bigger chambers. And if you notice, what changes here?
Over time,
How far?
The throw. So you're gonna have the same PSI, the throw will change, and you have further flow. Why do you think that's important? Look at the chamber. There are different chambers. Some of them are long, some of them are small. And what that we do not want to do? We don't want the flame to touch. Yes. Because if it touches, what will happen? Soot. You'll start having more smoke, and you'll have incomplete combustion. You'll have carbon monoxide, and also you might overheat one side of the chamber, and that will cause it to crack. So there is some specification. This is from the book for the angle, and that is where you actually want the flame. So for longer chambers, probably you'll have less angle, and the spray will go further. Yeah.
So you know we can't see the inside the tank if it's touching.
Yeah.
So if it's smoking, then it's because of that. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're right, you cannot see the flame, so that you want to just adhere with the instruction. And if there's still like some flame, you go and get some smoke, and you get a lot of smoke, you might want to check that, make sure, change the nozzle and see what you get inside. And in some older boiler, you can see the flames. The one we will walk on this week, probably you can see the flames, so you can at least get a sense of what is the spray angle and what is it doing. It can change the flame. And remember when we did the pump testing, and we did change the flame and how the flame went further and back based on the pressure, because we're changing the spray angle. We always want to have exact replacement. You want to replace the nozzle with exact model and brand, spray angle, and GPH. Just because you get the same matching GPH and spray angle doesn't mean it's going to perform the same. Every manufacturer has their own nozzles, and make sure you stick with the same nozzle. Brands is not interchangeable. Don't just go out there and ask for spray angle and GPH. They'll give it to you.
Wouldn't the rest be different?
No, they're the same. It will fit.
Be the same.
Yeah, it will fit, but it will not give you the same performance. Never alter or change the nozzle with different type. Do not touch the strainer or orifice. Why? They're very, very sensitive. You might have some oil in your hand. You might change the structure. They are very, very sensitive, and they are designed to perform in such. And how often do you change the nozzle? Every season. Even if it's working, you should change it, because the structure of the strainer over time, being under that pressure, it will change. Over time, it will change and will not perform the same way. Even the orifice, with the amount of heat and the spraying, it will eventually change and it will wear out. It will get bigger over time. Makes sense, you know, after a year of running, it should change. Use clean hands. If you have some dirt in your hand, you have some oils, you have some grease, use the gloves, put it in, and try not to touch the strainer. Avoid sand, dust, or other objects, because again, they will get trapped and they will change the flow. Never disassemble a nozzle. Try to see, I mean, if you don't clean it, do not do anything, because it's very, very involved assembly, and it's press fit. If you change any of the structure, it might cause dripping. What is dripping? Yeah, you'll have some drops coming from the nozzle, and that eventually will accumulate in the bottom of your burner and cause you to have some soot. Use clean tools. Use clean and proper tools, the right exact kind of wrench. It's the nozzle is made out of brass, and some of them have some copper, so they're very soft, they're not very hard. So if you do not use the right tools, you might not get the amount of torque required to hold in place, and it might again cause some dripping. So you want to, huh?
Are you putting emphasis on?
Never disassemble the parts of the nozzle.
Oh.
It has a lot of parts in it. Keep it as hollow. I mean, take it apart, but don't take the nozzle, take it off, but don't take it apart. It has so many parts inside. Well, the picture has like a small strainer. It has a spring, so do not take it apart. Try to clean it or fix it. Change the whole thing completely. Avoid scratching. If you drop it, get another one. And trust me on that, if you drop it, you have to change all of the structure. It's not going to spray correctly. So be very careful. Put a mat in there and change it. Don't drop it on the floor. Yeah.
Is that why we didn't use the other ones?
Huh?
In the garage, like, whatever over there. That's why we didn't use the other ones, because the nozzle was all messed up. Remember, like, there's two other burners you were trying to, like, use,
Yeah,
and, like, there's something wrong with them, though.
yeah, probably the nozzle is old.
Yeah.
And these had,
Like, does it just makes it less efficient, or
yeah,
it won't work?
less efficient, it will work, but it will make it less efficient, you'll have some dripping, and it won't give you the right distance.
It'll probably like spray like everything.
Yeah, it's going to be uncontrollable, and you'll have flame all over the place, and eventually it will overheat one side or the other. They let, yeah. Can we not do that, please? Yeah,
How would you? Exactly, that's what I'm saying. He's saying like you got cheap, like cheap.
Sections that they have.
Why do you
Wait for it to be over.
He said he's gonna, check, he said,
And it's crazy.
So we get up early,
Some
go get
lady
some soul food.
house just got
Wait,
knocked
soul food,
in
yeah.
fucking,
No.
Long
Maps in the,
Meadow. He had 1,000.
Oh, Long Meadow, yeah, yeah.
They were into big time. I was thinking they're from one of those things because
They all know each other.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure.
No, because I had the biscuit and the today.
commercial interruption?
Biscuit.
Okay. They last up to 2 seasons, so you cannot change it every season, even though it says up to 2 seasons, depending on how much you use them. But always go with the manufacturer recommendation and the installation recommendation, and they're not that expensive. So it's around like between $2 and $5, so change them every season. If you're gonna go there for pre-season startup, you wanna change them. And another thing that could happen, when the burner is not running, it might accumulate some dust on it, and the office might be clogged, so you wanna change that. The nozzle, if you take out the burner, it should not be very hot. If it's too hot to touch, something is wrong with the burner. What do you think is wrong? Could be backfire, it could be placed too close. You have not adhered to the instruction for how far it should be from the burner. So if you took out the burner or the nozzle setting and you find it's too hot, something is wrong with the combustion, double check that. Could be the reason for smoky fire, and could be the reason for delayed ignition.
I didn't know fire wasn't smoky.
Huh?
I said I didn't know fire wasn't smoky.
It should not, it should not smoke.
Well, I
Should not be.
don't burn.
Yeah, you want to become complete combustion. When you have a bonfire, it's different because again, you don't have enough air.
I was gonna ask you about that too. So like, people who keep their house with a chimney like that, that's like not good for them.
For fireplace,
Yeah.
if you have the proper chimney, it's okay. It's mostly not for aesthetics, but it should not be for heat. And if it becomes too smoky, the chimney is not about sucking all the smoke. It's not good.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's not
my
good.
neighbor does
I
that.
thought people just do that for.
Now, I have a.
Yeah, decoration.
It is,
Yeah.
a lot of times it is just for decoration.
And the smell, it feels nice.
Yeah, that's,
But
I thought it was all
keeps-
for it.
Yeah, but it keeps the house pretty warm.
Yeah.
I have a, it depends.
There's a lot of radiation. And if you look at new house now, they put glass on it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want the smoke to come up. They don't want any of the smoke. Yeah. And if you put a lot of glass, you want also to have some vents, because
We're getting a fake fireplace.
where's the fireplace getting air from? Your house. So if you don't have a vent, if you don't crack an open, a window open, you're gonna deprive yourself of oxygen.
Read that card, look at
Uh, After drip,
that. What's oxygen in the house?
we talked about that. It could be many reasons. So if you,
Piece of dust on the head,
huh?
piece of dust on the head.
Could be. So if you have after drip, hold on a second. It could be, what does that mean? That you close, you shut off the burner and there's still some oil coming out of the nozzle. It could be a defective pump shut-off valve. The valve is not closed completely and there's still a lot of pressure in the nozzle. The pressure between the pump and the nozzle is 100 psi and it should remain at 100 psi if the shut-off valve is not work properly, it will pressurize oil into the nozzle and it will drip.
But how do you know if it's dripping?
You'll see some oils at the bottom of the, yeah, not the bottom of the chamber or the tip of the gun assembly. I'll show you.
Maybe that's why I said maybe that's why he's leaking so much good shit starts tingling.
Can we pay attention a little?
Bring it up.
Okay, so to answer Felipe's question, which is a good question, how do you know there's after drip? If you see oil in here, for sure there's after dripping.
So isn't that part inside the?
Drippage is no good anyway.
Yeah.
Isn't that part inside the? Drip.
Yeah.
Huh? Can we kill the joke, please? After drip, you'll see a lot of moisture here, and it could be either the nozzle is not working properly, and it could be the diffuser plate. If the spray hit the plate, it's gonna accumulate, and you'll see some oil in here.
Why would that happen though? Because the plane would be shifted a little bit?
The location is shifted, could be the nozzle, and it could be there's air in the line, so there's a leak, and the air, when it's heated, it expands, so it pushes up, then it's do some kind of suction. And if you have radiant heat at the shutdown, that will expand the oil, the bubbles of the oil inside the tank between the pump and the nozzle line. And that you shut off the burner, and it will still like ooze some dripping, and it will accumulate in the bottom, and eventually what will happen? This will it will flash, it will burn, and it will have some accumulation. And it's not gonna get only gonna be force.
So
check
far,
that. Yeah.
quick question. If the pump is not working, will it drip?
Huh?
If the pump's not working, will it drip from the pump, the
Why?
oil?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily?
So Todd, if it starts dripping like that, just you're gonna have to change the nozzle. Right?
You gotta start investigating. Look where is it dripping. Take it out, make sure this is the right distance. Check the manual, make sure it's the right distance. And it shouldn't be as far because you want the spray angle to start from here, not from where it goes. If it's too far, it's gonna hit, some particles will hit the plate and it will start to drip. And also check the pressure of the pump and check the shut-off valve and see how much dripping you have. If you take it out and you look at the bottom of the chamber and it's kind of wet, and you go in the mirror and a flashlight, if there's accumulation of oil, that's not good at all. Okay? And these kind of problems usually they get worse and they don't get better. They keep exasperating. Okay, effective pump shut-off valve. Install a pressure gauge on the outside of the pump. We did that. So you take out this line, you install a gauge and turn the motor on. It should be around 100, 150, and the pressure usually is in here. This will tell you what is the spray angle, what is the pressure. So this one is asking for pump pressure at 140 psi. So we put at 140. Then we shut it off, and the pressure should drop by only 20%, depending on the model. 15 to 20%. If it's more than that, something is wrong with the shut-off valve, or something is wrong with the pump. If it drops and it keeps dropping, there is a leak.
Does it tell you in the sticker the 20%?
Usually it's general rule, either 20% or 15%.
But when you have to like calculate the pressure on it is 20%?
Yeah, so 140 minus 20%, that's around 20, so 120, you're gonna get 110, 112, yeah, something around that. And it should stay consistent. So this is what it seems like. Tubing, push the oil line. So if there is some bubbles in the system while it's working, so now it's under a lot of pressure. It's under 120 or 140 psi. So the bubbles are very small. Once you shut off the system and there's still some air in the system, these bubbles will expand and cause the oil to have excess pressure, and the nozzle will drip.
Can you go back for a moment?
Yeah.
Oh, the other one. Alright.
So the shut-off valve, this is the shut-off valve. Could be not shutting completely or properly, so you should change it. chamber. So sizing of the chamber is done based on the gallon per hour firing rate. So the chamber is where we want to contain the fire, and where do you want the heat to go? Which direction? Out. And usually it goes up through the heat exchanger. You don't want, that's why when you open the chamber, usually there's insulation, whether it's fiberglass or fire bricks, because they want to insulate the heat. You don't want the heat to come out of the boiler. So if you touch the boiler from the sides and back, it should not be very hot. If it's hot, something broken in the insulation inside. The heat, you want the entire heat to go from the top and heat the heat exchanger. And the required combustion chamber is done based on the BTUs. And there are ways to know what is the BTU required for each chamber. When will you need this information? It's when you decide to change the burner. So you want to change the burner, you find out that it's not working, you want to get a new one, you want to upgrade, it's too old, you might have to go and size the chamber, measure it, see how big it is, so you can go get the proper replacement. Or if you want to do conversion from oil to gas, you do conversion based on the burner, heat the size of the chamber, and see how much BTU can be put in that chamber. Why? Because that chamber is designed to handle a certain amount of BTUs based on the insulation and based on the heat exchanger in the top.
How are you gonna find the size of the chamber?
Measure. You open the boiler and you can measure the dimensions of the chamber.
So that's gonna give us how many BTUs can fit in that space?
Yeah. Otherwise, you might, what if you put more BTUs? You're gonna lose a lot of BTUs from the sides, which you don't want, and it's gonna be a lot of excess heat. This is some rules for the chambers and how much you can put in it. And you can find these in the book.
19, page 19.
That's page 519. Chamber dimensions, some of them are like circular. Where would you find the circular ones?
German.
Huh?
German.
No, usually they are in the hot water heaters. Like the tank of the water is circular, so you're gonna find a circular chamber. Or it's either circular, or you might find rectangular or square. This is the proper amount of flame. What you want to pay attention to is the distance in between the flame to the bottom, and you want the flame to be at the center of the chamber, because again, we don't want the flame to be touching any of the sides. As soon as it touches the sides, probably gonna have issues over time.
So, what's that line coming out?
Say what?
Yeah, like what's that, yeah?
That's the center of the flame. That's the nozzle coming in here. Flush. And if you notice, you want the nozzle to be flush with the wall. That's ideally how we want it. Otherwise, the flame might be too long.
Be with me, flush.
Yeah, with the same.
Flat.
Yeah, flat with it. Flush with it. Like see the line of the tip of the burner should be right at the beginning of the chamber. So I'm assuming this is my chamber thickness. So you can go and change and measure the thickness and adjust this plate, which is adjustable. You can unscrew it or you can change it to have this face flush with the wall. So this is the chamber wall. This is how it should
With
come
all
out.
those measurements, in the manual,
Say what?
make the measurements and all that stuff. be in the manual.
So the reason they're giving you this measurement is that this is the firing rate in GPH, which you can find on the nozzle, and this is the measurement that you want. It's the length and width for the chamber,
Oh, what the?
and hold on, the height and diameter if it's a vertical cylinder.
That for center, the C of 100 dimension?
Huh? Yeah, that's the center. That's where you want the height of it. So the burner can go up and down and side by side, so you want to adjust the height to have it in the center here. So, which makes sense because if you have a dimension of height of 8, it's 8.5. 1.5.
You can hear it.
No, maybe I don't want. Can we focus?
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do you check for leaks if it's flush with the wall?
combustion air again?
How do you check for leaks, if it's flush with the wall?
Oh, you have to take it out. Draft and venting. So if you go to chapter 5, let me show you some of the pictures. So Felipe, this is how you want it to be. And also check with the manufacturer on what they suggest. And these are some type of the chambers here. They want to be contained. Any current pockets, let's not think about that because it's gonna get us into a different dynamics. What I mean by that is just going to be a little bit of a vacuum in the corner where this area is not used. Don't worry much about this information as long as you stick with what the manufacturer requires for burn pavilion, should be fine. Draft and venting. So for every pound of oil, which is a gallon, no, that's a gallon has how many pounds? 7.4. So for every, we talked about that for week 1.
Like I'm remember.
So for every pound of oil, we need 14.5 pounds of air, which totally will give us 15.5 pounds of product. If we were to think of air, usually when we think of gas, we don't think of weight, but this is how much weight we're producing.
How many like cubic feet would that be of air?
For combustion,
14 pounds of air.
depends on the density, but it's gonna be a lot. I think about 50 cubic feet. Yeah. Probably more than that. Hold on, that's per pound. 1 gallon of oil will require 50 cubic feet of air to burn, and 1 gallon is around 7.5. So for 1.5, you're gonna multiply that by 7.5, and you're gonna get a lot of at least. Hold on, let me see. Around 350 cubic feet to burn 1 gallon. So it's a lot of air. So draft is the suction of the air into the chimney, and there's 4 types of draft. And it's very, very important to appreciate the amount of air required to burn oil, because if you have insufficient air, you're going to have incomplete combustion. And if you have insufficient air, probably going to have a lot of backdraft, and probably you'll have faulty equipment. So natural draft, that's the air coming as we burn the oil. Currential draft, what is currential draft? You know that swinging doors you have in a chimney? That's currential draft, because as the air moves faster, it will create a vacuum and it will require to suck some air, and that's why you have a swinging door to supply that suction. If you don't have the swinging door, probably you're gonna have the suction coming from the chamber, and that's something is not proper for the combustion. Forced draft,
Using a fan or something.
using an inducer fan. So if you look at some of those burner in the back, because the chimneys are not designed properly, they all have mechanical draft. Why? Ensure that all the gas are coming out. Sometimes you might have to resort to forced draft because there's not enough suction, and you see a lot of smoke in the house, so you might want to force the draft out, but that will mess up your draft calculation. Direct venting. What is direct venting? It's going through your wall, not through the chimney to the house, not the top, so it goes directly to the outside. You have to dig a hole and put the draft in there. Draft development. So if this is my chimney here, and this is my stack, so this is where we have our supplemental air or draft control, and this is our swinging door, and that's where the currential draft takes place. Natural draft comes in with the fuel, and hopefully if you have working with a new boiler, you will have the air coming from the outside instead of from the basement. So there's cold air in here coming inside with the fuel, it goes up, As it goes up, the flow in here will create a vacuum, and the vacuum will pull in air with it. So make sure the friction draft and the doors will swing in freely.
So that's what will give it, that's what will give it natural draft?
Yeah. And we know that hot air rises and it rises become really fast. If you have a very long chimney, we'll talk a little bit about the chimney requirement and its velocity. If the chimney is too long, the air might be cooled very rapidly and do not pull as much, and in that case you might need to have to put an inducer fan to be able to pull the air out.
I was wondering that.
Yeah.
Chimneys and heights.
Yeah, chimneys and heights are very important, and sometimes not long enough to develop that speed to pull in air, so you have to put some force into it. So not every chimney can be used for
Natural.
for natural or like the proper draft. Because if you think about it also, the draft you're producing in the chamber based on the hot air rising from the chimney and also the motor pushing air in. Sometimes that's not enough, especially if it's too long of a chimney. The air is too heavy, it cannot push through. So you'll have another backdraft, falls back in.
How would you,
Yeah.
figure out how much, you know how you were saying that for every pound of gallon of oil, you have to have like 14.5?
Yeah,
So how would you know how much air?
that's a good question. So if you have a sealed basement, if you don't have a vent in the basement, probably you have to put some forced vent because there's not enough air in the basement coming in to supplement for that. And probably the person who's installing the air should do this calculation. So the CFM, we're gonna go with cubic feet per minute. So if this, let's calculate for example, if you're burning half a gallon per minute, you will need 25 cubic feet of air per hour. So that's not a lot of air. If you get a small fan with 5 CFM, that's per minute, so multiply by 60. So in this case, if you just have a crack in the window, a small vent in the basement, that will do the job. Be aware that if the basement is completely sealed, there's no open windows, you're not gonna have enough draft to bring air from. And that's why sometimes you see in the basement door, there's some kind of slates or vents, so the basement will soak in air from the house. And usually cold air sinks, so you'll hope all the air will go into the basement. So hot air causes lower weight. So as John was saying, you know, if we have cold air that's heavy, it's gonna have a lot of backdraft into the chimney. So in this case, probably you'll have to induce some draft to start pulling air. Otherwise, the hot air might not be enough for a big chimney to go all the way up and rise. It might fall back again, and you'll have some backdraft, and the air will go back from your chamber. Sorry. Infiltration. So we're hoping at some point that the house is properly vented, so you'll have air and opening from the living space into the basement, supplement for the draft. What if we don't have any vents and the door is closed? You might have to induce some draft from the outside. And the best way to do it, in my opinion, and in a lot of books, is that you have sealed vent. So you have a vent coming all the way to the boiler. Some boiler actually will come with a tube that will pull air from the outside. What about your dryer? Where does it get air from? Usually, yeah. Some dryers have only one vent to the outside, but you don't have vent coming in. So it's sucking air from the basement as it goes around. Yeah. So you try to have suction and outlet. Because if you put it on the dryer, you see air coming out of the vent. But where's the air coming from? It's in the basement.
Yeah,
So
the
it's
hot
a-
air is being pushed out.
Yeah. So you want to have some kind of draft. Again, same idea here. Stack height, and I will show you what the stack height has to do with the temperature. Do you think the temperature outside will affect the hot air coming out? Like if it's colder outside, would you have proper venting or less venting? If it's natural. The air will be heavier, right? So the air existing in the chamber will be heavier, which makes the air struggle to comes out, especially if there's not enough, and if the stack is very, very big.
Yeah, it's pushing it, the cold air is pushing
Yeah.
it back down.
So, let's look at that. Chimney temperature and height. And what is the draft you should be expecting? Outside air is at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very cold, which is very warm comparative to 0. And see how the draft changes? Let's say the chimney is around 400 degrees and 15 feet. The draft is 9, 400, draft is 10. So it did increase a lot when at 0 degrees. So if you were to go and calculate the chimney height versus the required draft, you're not going to have as much. So the draft increases in this case because the air outside is very cold.
So that math on the bottom, is that how you figure out?
Yeah, if you have different chimney, you can measure the chimney. You have the draft. This is a constant for the air, height of the chimney, and the heat coming out of the boiler, plus 460, again, it's conversion, temperature plus 450. So that will give you the amount of draft you're supposed to have in the on the stack. Otherwise, you have to do some modification. So this is something that I've been talking about is if you have mass out, you're gonna have something coming in place, right? Otherwise you have a vacuum. So if you don't burn a lot of air, this air has to come from somewhere. So you want to have the amount of air you're dumping out of the chimney, the same amount of air coming inside the house or where the boiler is. The pressure difference, again, pressure difference will provide, if you have low pressure and high pressure will always want to go to the low pressure. When we have wind, usually, you have a lot of air velocity that's pulling some air. So if the air is going flat in front of the chimney, it will suck up some air from the chimney as well. So wind will close more draft inside your chimney. And you need infiltration, but we want the infiltration to be controlled. By infiltration, we mean vents. Usually, in a basement, they rely on the small windows in the basement to produce the draft. Otherwise, they might have to open a vent. Or you might have a door with slates open in it. Okay. I think that's enough. We're gonna stop now. And we'll finish the rest of our